Another wonderful day across much of the eastern part of the United States, and we've got mostly quiet weather for another day or so. The Gulf Coast is getting hit with heavy rains from Texas to the west coast of Florida. There's late summer heat in the west. It's been 100 degrees for a high or higher in Phoenix, Arizona for 100 days in a row, and that's a new record.
Oh
And
God.
yes, I know, and we have a lot of weak tropical systems running around, or semi-tropical systems, or whatever you want to call them. So we'll talk about all of this in such incredible detail that even I'm going to be amazed. And on tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, and you can support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast by using the link pinned to the top of the chat board or on the description to this video. When you shop on Amazon, use that as your lead link, and Amazon throws us back a little bit of coin. You get all your stuff, and everybody is happy. So,
Yay!
yay! Um, so, really nice day here. Let me see what my temperature is. Hold
Mine's
on.
98.6.
Yeah, well, that's normal. I'm 69 right now. I don't think I got to 80 today. I think it topped out in the mid 70s and just stood there. I actually went to the park and walked in the middle of the afternoon, and it was nice and comfortable. Uh, Enjoyed it. So I'll say that I had a good day. Will you say that you had a good day?
49 degrees to kick off the day here. Nothing but bright sunshine. And this hour, it's 69 degrees. I think we reached a peak today in the low to mid 70s, but I'm not exactly sure. But nonetheless, turned out to be a glorious, glorious middle of the week.
Yeah, September. September can produce some really outstanding days.
Yes, it can be very, very nice, but it's also, I mean, I was coming down the stairs and I noticed how the shadows have changed. I mean, 2 months ago, the sun was still up and it was still bright. And actually, there's a period right around the summer solstice where the sun is way over in the west northwest. And at this moment, 7:30, 7:35, it actually shines through a crack that allows sunlight to get right into my room. And that only happens again right around the time of the solstice. Forget about it now. I mean,
Oh,
it's
it's like your own personal Stonehenge.
exactly, yes. Yeah, it is kind of like, why
Or
should I go
Manhattan.
down Manhattan to see Manhattan Henge when
When
I
you
have,
could just look at the crack in your window.
right, I have Rayo Henge right here at the summertime. So,
Well, yeah, and I've noticed it here too, especially because being where I am with elevation, when it we get to the late afternoon, it's the sun is being obliterated by some mountain to my southwest, so it gets the light gets diffuse and darker. And now, of course, by the time the show is over, it's pitch black outside. I get to look at my lit up statue of St. Francis of Assisi. So definitely going in the direction of shorter daylight and longer nights before too long. For too long, it's 8 o'clock sunrises for me. Chuck Cardillo, thanks for hitting super chat this evening, first one tonight, and I appreciate your kind words as always. And I gotta know I think you probably sent me a message on Patreon, and I didn't answer it yet, so I will get to that afterward, after the
and
show is done.
I haven't watched a second of the Met game. The Mets are playing the Red Sox for the third consecutive night tonight, and I see they're ahead in the first inning 4-0. And I don't know anything about this except looking at the box score. And when I look at the box score, I see that the number 5 batter, Jesse Winker, is the designated hitter for the Mets tonight. And it says in the box score, 1 home run, 4 RBI. So my assumption is, since
A
they're ahead,
grand salami.
that he hit a grand salami to
Yes, he
lead.
did.
So that's good.
All right.
That's good.
Welcome to everybody on the chat board tonight. And for those of you who are watching in the background, big hellos to you on tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. We're here Sunday through Thursday at 7:35. Fridays and Saturdays are off days unless there's a storm around, in which case We will notify you with plenty of time so that you don't miss us. If we add a show, we might subtract a show on another time frame, but no schedule changes on the horizon. If you like the show, hit the like button, turn your notifications on, and be sure to subscribe so you never miss us. So when we
I
were
never,
here, what's that?
I never miss it.
That's true. Um, so when we last spoke last night, we thought that there wasn't going to be a whole lot going on, and as we look at things today, we can affirm that there's not going to be a whole lot going on over the next 7 or 8 days, except for Saturday when we've got this cold front coming through, and even that to me doesn't look all that impressive. I guess the only downside is probably going to be because of the onshore flow. Uh, Maybe starting on Friday, that you're probably going to have a lot more clouds around, and particularly Friday night and Saturday. So if it's not rain, if it's not going to be raining all the time, clearly, but it's not exactly going to be a picture perfect type of beach day.
It's, a couple of days ago, I was thinking that, well, we're going to have to give up at least half the weekend to wet weather, dreary weather. But now it's looking like this weather front that's coming on through is going to come on through at such a good rate of speed that we may actually have a decent day on Sunday. And Saturday doesn't look
Oh,
all.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree. No, I agree. Still, my issue for Saturday is that there's probably going to be clouds around, along with whatever rain or showers go by. But maybe a part of the time it won't be doing much of anything. It's just not going to be a day that you're going to want to run down to the beach per se.
Right. Right.
Okay,
Well,
good.
anyway, I mean, yeah, and I saw an article somewhere online today where it said that this time of the year is probably the most dangerous for beachgoers. They see, as you pointed out, Joe, September can be beautiful with blue skies and bright sun, but a lot of the beaches now are going to be losing their lifeguards. This might be the last weekend for many beaches when that happens, and also you got to be concerned about any kind of offshore system that might stir up the water, maybe lead to some rough sea or even an undertow or rip current. So um, if you're going to the beach, be extra careful because it may look beautiful, but may not necessarily be a great time to go out in the water.
Yeah, I think the New York beaches. I don't know about the Jersey beaches. I think the New York beaches they have lifeguards on the weekend through the month of September. I don't know if they have them during the week, or if they do, they probably only have them in you know small sections, so small areas sectioned off.
Right,
All
right.
right. So let's check out and see what's going on. We talked about the heat out in the West in the Open tonight, and of course, looking at the watches and warnings, got excessive heat warnings in Arizona, Southern California, Southern Nevada. We've got heat advisories going north up the state. We've got excessive heat warnings up also for parts of the Pacific Northwest and Oregon and Washington state. And where it's not that, it's heat advisories that go into northern Idaho. So this is because we've got the heat ridge in the west, and we've been dealing with troughing in the east, and we're benefiting in the eastern part of the United States, even down into the south, getting got into some of this drier air. There's been some high clouds around because of that a lot of Gulf moisture, which most of it is actually sitting in the Gulf of Mexico. But some of the rain that has moved inland, you're getting blow off high clouds that are coming over the top into Arkansas and Tennessee, and then kind of streaming into northern portions of Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, to southern Virginia. Most of those areas didn't have enough cloudiness to mask the sun away, but on the whole, weather's been pretty nice. We've got flood watches up from southern Louisiana and the coastal bend of Texas because, again, it's been raining. The disturbances in the Gulf of Mexico, of which we're probably going to see little lows spin up out of that. And as we check out the satellite, there's nothing organized here, but you can see there's just a lot of clouds across Texas and Louisiana, southern Alabama, Mississippi, and back to Florida. A lot of scattered thunderstorms in Florida. Looks like still some heavier thunderstorms going on in a few places, but the number of lightning strikes has decreased now that we're past sunset. And there's also some lightning strikes going on in parts of East Texas and Louisiana. We've got a little bit of lightning strike action going on in northern Utah, northern Colorado, and into Wyoming. Otherwise, weather's pretty nice here. Looks like another cool night ahead, Joe, for Thursday morning. Looking at some of the forecast low temperatures. Let me bring up a bigger version of that map. Just take me a moment here.
Well, I've hit 49 2 days or 2 mornings in a row. The bottom came at about 5:30 a.m. both mornings. So I am wondering whether or not we're going to be able to get down to 49 again tomorrow morning. We just may miss out, perhaps only make it down to like 51 or 50. But regardless, another very comfortable sleeping night tonight for the Northeast, and another great looking day it looks like for tomorrow.
Yeah, even the warmer urban centers like Philadelphia and New York City bottoming out close to or just under 60 for Thursday morning. A lot of 40s once you go far enough north and west of the coast in the Hudson Valley, right north of Route 84 and west of Route 84 over into eastern Pennsylvania. A lot of temperatures in the upper 40s, even some lower 40s as you start to go further north. But this is going to be the last cool night of this current stretch because high is going out, and the east wind is going to be taking over in the next couple of days. The radar this evening, as we take a look, you can see what's going on along the west coast of Florida. We have some heavy downpours there, also a few clusters there in southern Florida. Some other clusters of downpours just kind of touching the Florida Panhandle coastline. And then going back into southeast Louisiana, actually, much of the state of Louisiana is in rain at the moment, and also along the coastal bend of Texas, in southeast Texas, which is up in the from Houston east. There's a cluster there. And in South Texas, we've got some patches of thunderstorms and downpours. Most of them are inland. And down on the Mexico side, there's a little patch of rain in northern Mississippi and northern Alabama and southern southwest Tennessee and eastern Arkansas that's moving eastward. That actually, the southern edge of that might pass just to my north if it holds together. And we also have some scattered showers, a few thunderstorms going on in parts of Colorado and Wyoming. This is where the Storm Prediction Center has risk, marginal, so isolated severe thunderstorms for Wyoming and northern Colorado, northeast through Nebraska, eastern South Dakota, back up into Minnesota and northwest Wisconsin. And for tomorrow, a teeny tiny area in northern New Mexico under a marginal risk. Tornado risk is not elevated, and on day three, which is Friday into Saturday morning. The coastal plain from Maine down to South Carolina, nothing, but you can see general thunderstorms possible to the west, up into the Great Lakes, and then continuing across the Gulf states. And this is where the rain is. We've got additional rainfall on top of what's already fallen in the last several days of another several to 6 inches along the immediate coast. Because once you go inland, it does thin out a bit, but still every bit of a couple of inches, maybe even reaching as far north as central Georgia and central Alabama and central Mississippi. And then you can see the heavier rain over the next 7 days along the coastal bend of Texas. In the Northeast, not a lot. The WPC went from 3/4 of an inch to an inch and a quarter a few days ago to barely a quarter of an inch now for northern New Jersey and points north and east. And actually, it gets even less as you head into southeast New England, a little heavier in upstate New York and north central New York. There's a big patch of an inch and a half plus, and you're still seeing heavy rains in eastern Ontario and western parts of Quebec. These are 7-day rainfall amounts. And then once you go west of the Great Lakes, I mean, there's hardly anything. We're talking about maybe a few hundredths to as much as a quarter of an inch at most in some places, and that's about it. So it's kind of a dry uh, period here, Joe. And the big reason is that the models have changed, trying to kind of connect this stream of Gulf moisture with that cold front.
Right.
And now, with the way things are looking, with these waves that are developing on the old frontal boundary, that these waves are going to stay completely separate and move on their merry way out into the Atlantic, and they're not going to be bringing up all this Gulf moisture up the East Coast.
Yes, and it would appear right now, in terms of precipitation, nothing on tap for either tomorrow or for Friday. However, as we move into Saturday, I would say the first half of the day on Saturday looks dry. If you want to do something out of doors on Saturday, anytime up until about 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you should be safe. However, as Joe mentioned earlier on in the show, it looks like there are going to be quite a few clouds to deal with. However, once we get past, let's say, 1 or 2 o'clock, showers will begin to show up, moving in from the west. And before Saturday is over, before the day is over on Saturday, we could be looking in some areas, like in the immediate New York area, maybe a quarter of an inch of rainfall. And as you go upstate to the north and to the west of New York, it might even grow to be perhaps on the order of about a half an inch. But again, all of that comes in the afternoon and evening on Saturday. Saturday morning should be okay. And again, no problems weather-wise for either tomorrow or Friday. No precipitation expected right on through the remainder or balance of this week.
So we're checking out the models. There's this old frontal boundary, and there's a low that's off the midway between the Carolina coast and Bermuda. Once upon a time, in back in our day, Joe, we actually, I would say, every year there was always one or two systems that would start out as cold core upper lows off the middle and South Atlantic coast that would eventually evolve into subtropical or even tropical systems. That just doesn't seem to happen very much anymore.
You're absolutely right. I remember a lot of that happening in the 80s and early 90s, where we'd see something that an innocuous kind of a coastal system, and say, "Oh, look at that! There's a low," and then all of a sudden, within a couple of days, if sometimes even less, that system gets designated with a name, and that doesn't seem to happen very often anymore.
No. And these waves, they're trying to spin up, but they don't have a whole lot of support with them. And you can see what's happening here with all this Gulf moisture. It moves out into southern Georgia. There's a low there near Charleston come Saturday morning. And then you've got the rain with the cold front that's in western New York and Pennsylvania and into Pennsylvania. And by the way, that is a little bit of that little shade of light blue north of Lake Huron. That is snow there, believe it or not. That's a very cold upper air feature. But the low that's near Charleston just gets ejected well out to the south. Goes sort of straddles the North Carolina coastline as the front comes through like a broom. It just pushes it through. So the next big high and the next cool push actually makes it all the way down to the Gulf Coast and into the middle and South Atlantic states, and then sweeps in behind the front on Sunday into the Northeast, and it brings about a day next Monday where, except for Florida, there's no hardly any rain anywhere. And then I'm just going through next week through Wednesday. There's still very little precip going on. Most of it's in the Gulf of Mexico and over Florida and off the Florida coast. So, yeah, it looks kind of uneventful to me. If you ask, looking at this, we may be getting into a stretch here where it may not rain for a while.
Yeah,
SB will be very happy.
I'm sure. um, yeah, and in fact, I was just thinking, Joe, about what we were talking about a couple of minutes ago about systems that just suddenly form or suddenly are designated as tropical. It was the day before I got married in 1984, and just as I was getting the latest from the Hurricane Center, there was a tropical system that wasn't too far offshore, off of the mid-Atlantic coastline, a storm that was a non-tropical low that strengthened into the tropical storm Cesar off the east coast of the United States, and then traveled east northeast. And as soon as the announcement was that this was a tropical system, again, relatively close to our shoreline, that's when the gorilla came into the weather center.
Which gorilla?
Well, as I said, it was the day before
Oh,
and some of my close friends, my best man, and some of the ushers had arranged to have a guy dressed as a gorilla, come into the weather office where I worked. And here I am, looking at this latest information about Tropical Storm Cesar and trying to figure out what it was going to do and where it was going to go. And all of a sudden, here comes this gorilla coming into the weather center who starts singing, "Yes, we have no bananas.
oh God.
Bananas, Joe Rayo, today." And he had a banana and it was tied to like a red ribbon. He puts the banana around my neck, and I'm saying a few words, which this is a family show. I will not say them here. He lifts me up and like a sack and puts me over his shoulder and starts carrying me out of the weather center. And I'm screaming, "Put me down! What is this? What's going on here?" And he went downstairs. There was my best man in his car with all of my ushers. They opened the door. This guy in the gorilla suit flings me into the car. It was a Ford Galaxy, big car, and they zoom off. And I'm screaming, "I can't go now. I've got to know what's going on with Tropical Storm Cesar. There's a tropical system. Let me go."
Yeah,
and that was and that was it for my day at the weather center. It's funny how one thing can trigger a memory, and that just you
that
helped trigger
just
a memory here when when we were talking about storms that offshore storms that suddenly form into tropical systems.
well, we don't have that issue this week or this weekend. I'm just looking quickly at some of the models out here. The European starts to spin up a couple of things during next week. Not, a couple of low, way out in the Atlantic, something off the southeast coast, which is part of that all that wave action that's going on. Um, the GFS on the 18Z run actually after the 10th of September uh, spins up a hurricane in the tropical Atlantic and brings it just over the northern Leeward Islands and has it not too far from Bermuda, Joe, by
Oh,
384 hours. Which, of course, either they go to Wilmington, North Carolina, or Bermuda or Nova Scotia. Those are the three places where these tropical systems want to go. Anyway, but the bottom line is we're still in this period of relative inactivity, and in fact, it's so inactive. They must be so bored at the Hurricane Center. They're highlighting four weak areas on their outlook, and this should be the 8 o'clock outlook. So the one in the far eastern Atlantic, just to the west of the Cabo Verde Islands, they have a 10% in 48 hours, 20% in 7 days. The one that's east of the Leeward Islands, 10% and 10%. The one in the Southwest Gulf, 0 and 30. I mean, they've been forever with 0 and 30 with this one, and nothing's happened yet. And now they've actually pointed out this low that's off the North Carolina coast tonight, saying that this could maybe become subtropical as it heads up to just south of Nova Scotia. And the GFS kind of picks up on this, but uh, there's nothing imminent here, and nothing that of concern. The Eastern Pacific is very quiet now. Usually, when the East Pacific is quiet, the Atlantic starts to rev up. So, after a burst of activity there, now that it's quieted down in both the East Pacific and I think also in the Central Pacific, it stands to reason that the Atlantic should start to pick up. I mean, I can't imagine we're going to go the whole month of September without seeing a tropical system, a named storm. That
has
would
that ever?
be that would
I
be bizarre.
I don't think that's ever happened, though. I mean, we know that we had an August without any tropical activity. That just happened, what, a
I,
year or two?
I I think there's one out there somewhere where the September was nothing for. I'm not 100% sure. I'm just kind of my memory is just sort of jumping around, thinking that maybe there's some obscure year a long time ago where there was nothing in the month of September.
Okay, well, if
You
it's
know,
happened, it's happened.
look, if it's happened, it's probably at most happened once or twice,
Yes.
and not much more than that. I'm sure somebody will figure it out and let us know. You have Briller Jeopardy tonight, right?
Yes, I do.
Good, let's do it.
Yes, I do. And in fact, this might set a record. I don't think we ever had Briller Jeopardy so early. But what else is there to talk about? Uh,
Yeah, I
so
mean,
let
it really isn't much.
let's go to Briller Jeopardy. I will
Well,
get.
I have to get my Briller Jeopardy pad out. I have my pad and pen, so sometimes I can, figure out what it is. Trying to figure out the temperatures.
Okay, well, on this Briller Jeopardy, the average high temperatures in September in these select cities. And we will start with Houston.
Houston.
The average high in September.
I'm going to say for Houston, because it's along the Gulf Coast, I'll say, trying to think, what do we have for Dallas yesterday? We had 90 for a high for the month of September, I think.
I
Uh,
think.
so I'll say 88.
News Radio 88 time.
Um,
No. It's actually, you are in snake country with that 88. And a lot of people on the chat board came up with the same number 88. Maggie P., for example, and Frank R., and Carol DeChera, and Ms. Spallerite. A lot of people with 88. Pat BFD,
uh,
88. Jason,
Cardillo, Waterhouse, and Rothmansky have 87, and so
oh,
does Latex Dreams.
that's a little too far.
So that means that the number is 89.
89.
I was kind of going to go with that, and then I just took it back 1 degree.
It's no disgrace to be off by a degree, Joe.
No, it's not.
How about Jacksonville, Florida?
Jacksonville, Florida. Well, I mean, Houston's 89. I want to go, I'm thinking 89 or 90. So I'll say 89.
You know, it's a pity you didn't think one lower than that.
Like Mike Waterhouse did with 88.
Yes, see, everybody went with 88 for Houston.
WCBS New York.
CBS New York. I tell you, my car radio still has 880 on it, and I flick it on, and as soon as I hear what's on, I flick it right off.
That's the way to do it.
Yep. How about Central Park?
Hmm. I'm trying to think now. 26.
The category tonight, Christopedia, is
By the
average.
end of the month, I'm going to say, I'll say, because by the end of the month, it's much cooler. So the average is split the difference. I'd say 77.
WABC. No, you're in snake country, and in
Uh,
fact, we have Rich Rotmansky and Frank R. and Chuck Cardillo and Frank Scalera, all with the and Carol DeChera, all with the correct number 76.
That's 3 in a row that I missed by one.
Yes, you're awfully close, Joe, tonight.
Yes.
How about not St. Paul, but Minneapolis?
Well, this is where you're going to get me. Um, I'll say, uh, I'll say 72.
What is this with you tonight?
Again, I missed it by one.
Again,
Oh God.
I can't believe
Frank R says 73, and Carol DeCara says 73. Chuck Cardillo's got 71.
Patrick Darcy also said 73. And for all of you who said 73, congrats, you got it. And Joe
That,
missed
that,
it again by one.
that's four that I missed by one.
Let's see if you could do it with this one. And this one in particular, you should know because you lived there for a
Oh
short while.
God. Yeah, this is where I'm.
New Orleans.
New Orleans. Hmm. I'm trying to remember. Yeah. All right. So what we say, Houston, we said 88. I'm going to say for New Orleans, I'll say 86.
Well, finally, you missed by more than one. Close,
Okay.
more than one.
I missed it by two.
You missed it by two.
Okay. So I'm thinking I'm too high. If I'm going to be in any direction, I'd say probably too high.
No,
I'm too low.
too low.
Maggie P and Norm Roberts at 87. Patrick Darcy's got 88.
Patrick Darcy, once again,
Oh, and
second.
Ruben Fairchild's got 88 too. Let's not forget him.
Oh, let's not
And,
forget.
and, and Rich Rothmansky and
How,
Northern
how,
Grace and Lou Arizio all got 88. And Chasing Waterfalls got 88.
how could I possibly forget Ruben Fairchild the Great?
Yeah, well,
88.
um,
Yes, 88. And there now is the bonus. The bonus.
all right, the boner question.
Devant Sasson, Sanson's Arrive Rationale. Now let's all together sing our Canadian anthem, Montreal.
Oh, here, I have no idea. Montreal, I'm going to just take a wild stab at this, okay? Um, uh, 66.
WNBC. No, much too cool.
Much too cool. Okay. Yeah, that one I was not never going to get close. Um, well,
Krista P
proceeded
and Bar are in snake country with their
with
forecast.
72. Frank R at 72. Tyler Fienga 72. Maggie P is 71.
No,
So if it's not 72, it's got to be 73,
and
which
there you go.
Vincent Croce got 73.
Vincent Croce, 73, and Tyler Finga, 73. And Mike Waterhouse, 73. Maggie P says it must be 73. Well, yes.
Yes, exactly. All right. So I guess we can call it a night.
I guess we can.
Yeah, let's
I
call it. Let's.
said anything yet about the ninth tri-state weather conference?
You
If
haven't
I
said anything. You haven't said anything here.
Okay, well, I'm going to say it right now for the first time that the ninth weather tri-state weather conference will be held on Saturday, September 21st. It runs from 8:15 to 4:15, 8:15 a.m. to 4:15 p.m. It's going to have a number of very highly regarded speakers from the National Weather Service, from the eastern region of the National Weather Service, um, media weathercasters. So if you're interested, registration is $25, and for $25, you'll get both a very lovely breakfast and a lunch at midday, which consists, I believe, of pizza and other things. But the best part, of course, are the talks, and they will be going again from 8:15 to 4:15. So if you're interested, just go to the National Weather Service Forecast Office website in New York, the Upton website, and you can click and go straight to the information about the conference because they have a link to the conference on their webpage.
Well, let me see if I can bring it up. I'll put it on the chat board. Hold on a second.
Yeah, right.
La 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 la. Mwah, mwah. Register now for the ninth tri-state. Continue.
It's located. It's located. Everybody's asking where it is. I should have mentioned that. It's at Western Connecticut University, WestCon. You know where
Right.
that is?
It's
That's
in
where.
West. It's in Western Connecticut.
Yes. And
Right.
Vincent Croce says, "Joe R, you going?" And Vincent Croce, "I have to go. I have to go." You know
Yes,
why I have to go,
because
Joe?
you're emceeing.
I'm the MC. So there you go.
And I just put the link on the chat board for any of you that are interested. And of course, you're going to take the opportunity as being MC to do a shameless self promotion of the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast.
Yes.
And while you're there, you could line up a few guests for future shows.
It'd be great. It would be great if you somehow could manage to come north
Yeah,
and
Joe, that's not happening.
Well, I mean, I would be. What I said, it would be great.
No, I
It would,
appreciate that, really, but yeah, I'm not. No,
Joe and
I,
Joe.
no, it would be fun. It would definitely be fun. Um, yeah, can't do it.
Yeah,
I need
this
a little bit of notice if I'm gonna do something like that.
this Sophie says, "Take the dog with you, Joe." I don't think so.
Oh, I'd have to.
No, no, I'm not talking about. Well, oh, he's making reference to you. Yeah, that would probably make more sense. Although I do have a dog as well, but I'm not. I don't intend to take my dog to the weather conference. But anyway,
Mine sleeps through this show, and if I took him to the weather conference, I guarantee you he would sleep through the weather conference.
well, there's always one or two people who give a
No.
talk at conferences that could put you to sleep as well. No, I shouldn't say that.
Well, it's good. You're going to have a lot of fun. So, and of course, you're going to come back with oodles of gossip.
Oodles of gossip. Yes,
Good, good man.
I will tell
Ah,
you. I
good.
will tell you this. For those of you in the Hudson Valley, Jim Witt plans to be there. And Jim Witt has also told me that there is a chance, it's not a guarantee, but there's a chance that one of Joe's people, favorite weathercasters, is going to be there with him as well.
The Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. If you choose to support us, you can do that by using the Amazon link at the pin to the top of the chat board, or is also on the descriptor to this podcast. You get your stuff, and Amazon throws us back a little bit of coin, and everybody leaves happy.
I'm looking at Reuben Fairchild.
Well, oh God, yes. Um, anyway,
Christopher
um,
was going to say that.
all right, everybody, have a great night, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Night, night.
Good night.